I'm sorry, that's awesome. That's a great way to start a show. Laughing because Joanna's got me laughing right before we started. But hello and welcome to Flashback Friday and our favorite things. This is one of our favorite days because actually we get to know a little bit more about one another, a little bit more about our history and our torrid past, not necessarily, but our fun past.
Yes,
and that's going to come out, I know, in a couple months about who we really are. And so we love this day.
I love it.
And I love sharing it with my co-hosts, Cheryl and Joanna. So much fun. And we actually have Kimberly from Nashville joining us to share her favorite things and her flashbacks. And we love Kim. And if you haven't checked out her blog, you must. Just a Canadian Girl in Nashville. There's a button on our website. Click on it. She's got lots of thoughts as she's in Nashville from Canada, transplanted over because she married an American boy. So you got to hear about her story as well. And as well, we have the lovely Michelle Peters with us again all week from the Gideons International in Canada and Share Word Global. You have been representing well, girl.
Yes.
We have loved you on the
So
show.
good.
But I guess we have to ask you honestly, how have we been with you?
Well, I think
Evaluation.
about it, and I have to be honest.
Okay.
It's been amazing.
Yeah? Okay.
And I love it.
Because, I mean, this is a big deal because you're our first guest ever on our show. You number one. And so we've really enjoyed it. And just for you viewers, if you haven't seen our show on Monday and Wednesday, please do. It's in our archives on our show. And you get to hear more about what Michelle's up to and all the great work that the Gideons are doing in Canada and around the world. So, favorite part now is that we always do our flashback at the beginning of the show.
Yes.
And we just sort of get an inside look at us.
Yeah.
So, Joanna, you're first up with our Flashback Friday with your picture and story. So, explain to all of us your picture and what's going on here.
So the photo I bring to you today is not as old as some of my other ones have been. This one is from 2014.
Okay.
And it's me with a very large pile of books looking somewhat concerned.
Oh.
And it's it's how I announced that I was going back to do my master's degree. And so I went from a full-time role in a church context to a part-time role for a while in order to do that. And so it was sort of a step of, how am I going to pay for this? Like, this degree doesn't really make you any money, but it's going to take all my money. And I sort of was a bit of a leap of faith. I moved into downtown Toronto to study for a few years, and I still live there. And it was a great decision.
Yeah, I was about to say, was it worth it? Was it worth all the late nights and study?
I mean, I love learning, but a lot of learning is done alone in your rooms with all the books and the writing, and I love the lecture part of it, but the alone time not so much. So I'm glad that it's over, but I'm glad that I did it.
Good for you.
Good for you. That's great. Great picture. I love that. Okay, Michelle, for you, what is your flashback picture?
So this picture is of me and a local Christian Indian woman in India. This was my first trip that I did with the Gideons International, and it was a ministry trip. And what was happening this day, it's actually really amazing. So we had been traveling for a while to get to this location, and we get off the bus, and all you hear are this chorus of pastors singing worship and praise. And what was happening was there's this list that had been collected of people who needed a Bible, pastors who needed Bibles for their churches, and they had been waiting for over 2 years. And so this was an amazing time to come in and be able to present these Bibles to these pastors to share with their congregations and spread the word of God. And so this is just, they had a bit of a ceremony, and this woman is just greeting each person on the team, and that's what the picture represents.
That's amazing.
That's
that
beautiful.
hunger for the word.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was so impacted just hearing that chorus of them singing and knowing that I don't understand anything that they're saying, and I don't know what's happening in their lives, but we are united in Christ, and we're a family, and you knew that we were a family.
I love that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, speaking of travel, here's my flashback picture. This is a picture of me and my girlfriend Cheryl Weber, co-host of 100 Huntley Street, on camels in front of Petra while we were hosting a Full Circle TV show. It was an Israel tour with 75 travelers in 2012. Well, here's the thing. This picture, it was the first time for me to go to Israel. It was the first time for me to be on a camel. It was the first time speaking on a Sunday morning in a boat on the Sea of Galilee, which a lot of firsts, and the first time trying to sing this tune, dun 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 dun. Do you know that tune?
Yeah, well, close enough.
Dun, 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 dun.
Indiana
Yeah,
Jones.
the Indiana Jones theme song as we rode our camels.
What else
through
do you sing when
Petra,
you're on a camel?
obviously. You know, and the thing that was, I was getting confused with the A-Team theme song. Of some of you know the A-Team, so I was going dun 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 dun. And people were going by me going, no, wrong song, girl, wrong song. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm on a camel, and it was great. But it was this picture of Flashback really represents a really beautiful time for me in connecting. They say I've been a Christian all my life. It was connecting me with the actual stories that I read with real places. And there were moments like on the Via Dolorosa, on the Sea of Galilee, on the Mount of the Beatitudes, where I was like, oh my goodness, this is where Jesus was. Right. And I was overcome with a lot of emotion, realized they're actually real places because he is a real person. Yeah. He lived and existed in this place. And so this picture just represents so much about encountering Jesus and my faith. I would say for real, for the very first time. I mean, I've known him and I've experienced him, I felt him, and he's whispered to me in prayer, but this one was like, he walked this, he was here. And so, beautiful time, and I love this picture, but camels are stinky. Yeah. Like they are stinky, stinky animals. So I mean, it looks great. This picture, like I'm like looking all gorgeous, hair flowing, horrible, horrible, stinky. I got off of it and I stunk the entire day, and nobody wanted to be on the bus with me. So anyway, that's the Flashback picture. I
love it.
Now, hi Kim in Nashville. How are you?
Hey Melinda, hey girls, I'm doing great, and I'm not in my kitchen today. I have snuck away into my husband's office, and I'll tell you why. It is spring break right now in Tennessee. And the children are here, and I don't want them to find me. For so many reasons. And all the mothers are like, hallelujah and amen for when school starts again. Okay, so Flashback Friday. I love Flashback Friday. My picture, oh my goodness, must be 7 years old now. My kids were asked to be in a wedding, and they're so cute, and they did so well, and they walked down that aisle. Our friends Jeremy and Jessica got married that day, and they're so great. And at the reception, I had asked a friend to take some pictures of the kids and I, and she did, and they were great and posed and beautiful and perfect. And then I don't even remember what made us run and jump, but something did. And she captured this photo. Here's why I like this photo. I was a new single mom at this point in our lives. Life was not easy. In fact, it was very hard. I cried many, many, many tears that year and beyond. I remember praying every night for milk and just enough money to feed my kids and to provide and somehow get through. And I didn't know what the next day was going to bring and where we would ever end up. That was my life at this point when that picture was taken. Here's why I love that picture. Look at those kids' faces. Look at the joy. Look at the laughter. That is what they taught me through a very hard season of life. Yes, it's hard, but we get to choose how we react in those circumstances and in those seasons. And we danced a lot in the kitchen. We jumped for pictures, and there was a lot of laughter, even though there were also a lot of tears and a lot of hard days. So it's also a good reminder for me today, looking back on it, just where God has brought us in the last 7 years also, and that he has never left us. He's always been faithful, and he's always been so, so good. So that's my flashback for the day. Cheryl, what is yours?
What an awesome picture and awesome story, Kim. Gonna try and match that one. My picture also is fairly recent. It's me screaming at the top of my lungs in front of like about 100 kids in a school, losing my mind. And it's a moment where I found another passion, which is going into the schools. And so I run a theater company, and we get the honor of just traveling into schools, high schools, and really tackling some tough topics, but doing it in a really creative and inspiring way. And so we deal with cutting and teenage depression and eating disorders and all the heavies. And we've just been able to really tap into a cool way of connecting with them without necessarily saying a scripture or anything Christian-y. Yeah. So
what's that like? So for you, for the kids, for you to sort of call out what's going on. Yeah. How has that been for you and for them to identify those main, like is cutting, depression, suicide, all those kinds of things?
Yeah, and bullying, all of that. It's been amazing because it's like, wow, someone's speaking our language, someone sees us. You know, it's that see, hear, love again. Someone's seeing us, and kids are they're sensory driven, so they tune a lot of this out. So sort of presenting it in drama form, they plug right in. They see their lives on display.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you. I love hearing these stories, getting to know a little bit more about you. Well, now we are transitioning into, in the last segment of our show, our favorite things. I always love this too, because this gives me a chance to get to know you as well. It gets a chance for you to know me. Favorite things, and today our favorite thing is this: our favorite inspirational quote and why. And so I just sort of threw it out to you, girls. So whatever quote that's appropriate, we're going to hear today. But let's start off with Michelle. What is your quote or inspirational quote, and why? What is it about the quote that you love?
Mine, it's almost a little contradictory in nature.
Okay.
But it is a Bible verse, and it's Daniel 3:16. And so what it is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they say, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God who we serve is able to save us.
Love it.
He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up."
Wow.
And in nature, it doesn't sound inspirational, but to me, it's so powerful that you have these people facing death, and they're like, I know my God, and my God can deliver me. But even if he doesn't, he's still God, and that doesn't change him.
Right.
And it's actually connected to my picture. The pastors that we saw, these are men who face persecution. These are men who are beaten and told, leave this, and their lives are in danger in order to serve God. And it was so incredible to be interacting with these people and hearing that and seeing it actually happen. And to me, that's inspiration. That's something that you can't deny the power of God when you see that sort of being confronted with that kind of thing and saying, but God is still God.
Wow.
That's very inspirational. I love that.
Wow.
Ooh, Joanna, your
Well,
inspirational quote.
There's so many. Maybe it depends on the season, but there's this card that I keep in my office, just pinned up, and it's a quote on the card. It's a question, and just says, "What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?" And I think it changes. It's a question that forces me to change my thinking, instead of living out of like fear or the what ifs, like recognizing what I really want to go after in my life and then going for it. So, I mean, again, it's relating to the picture I brought today. I had a few false starts trying to start my master's before I finally went through with it and took this leap and basically kind of left my job in order to do it. And I mean, before I got a master's degree, I would hear other people talk about it and be like, oh, that's nice. Good for you. And once I began doing it myself, I began to realize how hard it is and how much work and commitment it takes to see it through, especially at the pace I was going. I was trying to do it as quickly as I could. And so, there were many times along the way where I felt like, oh, what am I doing? I feel like I'm going to fail. At least I'm going to fail this course or this paper. And then to just like press on through that, like through the fear or through the fear of failure and like seeing success on the other side of it.
That's awesome. Say the quote again.
What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Oh.
Big question.
Start up a women's web show.
There you go. Love it.
Maybe
See,
that's
Hear,
it.
Love.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Called See, Hear, Love. My quote, it's one that I've actually used a lot over the past probably 10 years when I've done speaking across Canada and internationally. And it's one of my favorite quotes. I don't even know if it's by anybody, but my best friend Marcia, shout out to Mars, said it to me going through a very difficult time. And actually going through when I was going through my own separation and divorce. And the quote is, "Today is not your forever." And I needed to hear that when I was in this fetal position on the floor, going, I'm done. It's over. How's God ever going to use me? And she came to me, and with her hand on my head and singing worship songs, she said, Melinda, I just want to encourage you with this. Today is not your forever. So you need to get up, sit up, maybe go have a shower since you haven't showered in 2 weeks because you're so depressed, really, and change this day so that it's not the same kind of day like it is going to be tomorrow.
Oh, I love that.
And the next day, and the next day. And I actually get chills because that quote changed my life because it was a choice to say, I know, God, you're with me, and you're not going to physically get me up and shove me into the car for counseling or into the shower. It's going to be a choice I have to make.
Yeah.
I have community. I absolutely did, and I'm so thankful. But when she said, today is not your forever, it all of a sudden went into my head, it's a choice now. You got to make the choice.
Right.
And here I am 8 years later, and I'm like, that day is not the same day as it is today.
Right.
And I feel victorious, stronger, hopeful, faithful, all those things. But that quote, and I said it one time at a conference, I think I was in Calgary, Alberta, and this woman goes, we need t-shirts that say that today is not your forever. So I said, yeah, we'll get back to you on that. So you never know. It could come out of the show, I don't know. But that whole idea of, you know, even for you and for viewers, encourage them to say, it could be really, honestly, crappy today.
Yeah.
But it might not be that the next day. You will get through that, just like what you've said. We just sort of push on through.
Love that.
And so that's my quote.
Cool.
Well, Kim, I know you're listening in, and I know you have a quote, a favorite quote, an inspirational quote that you want to share with us. Tell us about it.
You girls have such amazing quotes and so profound and so rich for the heart. Thank you so much for that. Melinda, I remember you saying those words to me, today is not your forever, on days that I really needed to hear it. And what a great reminder that this is just one day, right, in a whole sea of days that God has and the great purpose he has set out for us, and we can get through it. My favorite quote is one of many, but this one holds a very special place in my heart. It has for many years. It was actually written by a favorite singer of mine, and they are not words to a song. It was actually in a book that she wrote called The Good Road, and her name is Janet Paschal. And I grew up listening to her songs and loving all of them and loving her and singing her songs, but she penned these words. We question his plans, but not his faithfulness. We pause at his ways, but not at his wisdom. We wonder what a new year holds, but we never wonder who holds it. Those are such life-giving words for me. They hold such promise and truth and hope. I have questioned God. I have wondered. I have paused at his ways and said to him, I have some ideas. You want to hear them? I have stood at the beginning of a year and gone, I don't know what's going to happen this year. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I've stood at the end of a year and gone, well, maybe I didn't see that coming. But I'll tell you, I have never questioned whether God is faithful. I've known he always has been. And I know even when I try to give him my ideas that he is so much wiser than me. And while I don't know what the next moment will bring, I do know who holds my life. I buy a new day planner every year. I'm old-fashioned, and I'm still a little bit old, and I have a fancy phone, but I don't use it. But in the very beginning, the very front page of my day planner, every single year, I write these words. We question his plans, but not his faithfulness. We pause at his ways, but not at his wisdom. We wonder what a new year holds, but we never wonder who holds it. Maybe you need to write those words in the front of your day planner or somewhere where you can be reminded, every day that your life is held in mighty hands. We question, we pause, we wonder, but God is faithful. God is wise and he is good, and he's holding your life. Oh, I love it. Such promise and truth and hope. Cheryl, what is your favorite quote today?
I love what you said, a life-changing quote. So this quote changed my life. It changed the way I live, and it changed how I exist in my Christian walk. It's from St. Francis of Assisi, and try not to get emotional, because it means so much to me. Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. And I've learned, just with the work that I do with street youth, and I do urban missions. And sometimes verses, they can go over people's heads. Sometimes we can preach and not connect. And so it's so important that we live out our gospel practically, daily, embodying the word. David said, I've hidden the word in my heart. And I've just found that it's such a powerful way to bring the gospel down by just walking it out. Sometimes I don't even quote a verse. Feeding someone, soup kitchens, shoes, just walking someone through a crisis, getting over drugs, whatever it is, just being the love of God to them in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a great
Preach
quote.
the gospel at all times.
Times.
When necessary, use words.
Well, thank you, ladies. Those are great quotes, and I know that our viewers are probably like, where can I get that quote again? But all on our website, we will have our quotes up on our favorite things, and every week we're going to upload those onto the website so that you can be inspired as we are today. Great show.
Yeah.
Great show.
Yeah.
Loved,
Great week.
Yeah, it was a great week. A really
Yeah.
great week. And thanks to Michelle
you.
Peters. Thank you so much for the great work that you do. And like I said on Monday, you know, this show couldn't have happened without the Gideons, International in Canada,
Shout out to
Share Word
Gideon.
Global, believing in a dream.
Yeah.
And you as the Gideons have been such an encouragement to us to believe in this. Like, this is a startup. There's some risk. But to be part of an organization that's doing great work with Bibles, with great cards like this one with the Expressions program, with a free downloadable app called the New Life Bible app. You guys are doing so many great things, sponsoring concerts. Why wouldn't we want to partner with you? And so we are so thankful that you have believed in us and are part of us. And we don't even say partners and sponsors, we actually say friends.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for being
absolutely.
with us. We have loved it. Well, to you, Cheryl and Joanna, listen, have a great weekend.
Yes.
Enjoy your weekend. Have a great one.
That was my weekend dance.
Okay, that is. And we will see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.